Disneyland wanted to create commercial activities up there and ski lift in Mineral King. And we decided there should be a defense on this. So we started what we call Defenders of San Gorgonio Wilderness. And that was the end result that Disney also realized that wilderness is something that we need to conserve. And they backed off completely.
Okay, we're rolling.
So, Harry.
My name is Harry Krueper. I'm a junior.
How's senior doing?
How is what?
How's the senior doing?
Oh, he passed away from cancer in 1948.
Oh my.
So I've just kept the name Harry Krueper without the junior except for legal documents.
Now, you were here in the very beginning of this Wilderness Act.
Oh yeah, I was,
You and your wife, Alice?
yes.
So, tell me how all this got started.
Well, basically I came up to San Gorgonio to Dollar Lake in 1942-43. And that was my first backpack up there. I stayed all night. Dollar Lake still had fish in it then. I caught a fish. One of the two people who caught a fish in Dollar Lake, but sold me on San Gorgonio. And I brought, then I was a scoutmaster after that, and I brought my scouts up here many, many times, long before Alice even knew of this. And then we got married in 1955 and came to San Bernardino principally because she loved the mountains, I loved the mountains, she loved the desert. I said okay to the desert, but basically I had a job with the state in San Bernardino. And so we then became attached. I brought her up. We camped several times at Dollar Lake and at Dry Lake, and we had Ron, our oldest boy, and so it grew on us. And then we heard, we were both members of the Sierra Club, that the potential for development of the San Gorgonio Wilderness area may occur. And that was about 1960, 61. And that was through the Sierra Club. And then we gradually got to know, well, we knew Joe Momeyer. He was a member of the Sierra Club, and we went camping with him many times before. And we decided that, you know, there should be a defense on this. So in 1961, one summer afternoon, evening, we had a meeting in our backyard with Joe Momeyer, Neil Kramer, myself, my wife, and there was somebody else there at the time. And we decided that we should start to get organized because this is high money potential that these people are talking about potentially building a development in San Gorgonio, and we all loved it.
So tell me what you loved so much about the wilderness.
Wilderness, just as we're in it right now. The quiet, the serenity of it, and the non-commercialism that develops many times in areas. We also were knowledge of a Big Bear, because in 1939 is when our family went up to Big Bear the first time, bought a lot, and at Thanksgiving of 1939, I mixed the concrete for the footings of our cabin we have there that we finished. Well, it was never really finished. We're still adding on to it time, but it was a cabin in 1942, 43. And at that time, we all wanted wilderness to stay. We were against Big Bear Lake. That was a place where I worked summers, and my folks spent all the time up there we could. Due to gas rationing, it was limited during World War II, but yet San Gorgonio was just behind us, and we came here many times. As our family grew, Ron was born in '56. I had another son born in '59, and then '61 and '63. Our other sons, we had 4 sons, and we all came to San Gorgonio, camped many times. I remember backpacking my youngest son, Brian, on my backpack up here, and we, at that point in time in the '60s, is when the issue was growing. And so we started what we call Defenders of San Gorgonio Wilderness.
And what actions did you take, the Defenders?
Initially, just working with the Forest Service, keeping informed. We had very beneficial response from the Forest Service. The head ranger here, Don Bauer, was a very commendatory official ranger. He'd been in charge of San Jacinto and San Gorgonio for many years. He knew it backwards and forwards. And so we were able to work with the Forest Service in keeping informed. And as we kept informed, we then became an organization. From 5 people we started up to well over 200 people of advisors, and as well as actual members who contributed. And we'd get all sorts of backing, not from the commercial groups, not from the money groups, but from the real people who knew wilderness and appreciated the use of trails and being able to go into the backcountry and love the backcountry.
And what did the developers want to put here?
Pardon?
What did the developers, what was their intention? What did they
Their
want to do?
intention was to obtain rights to build a roadway up to the base of the Dollar Lake, Dry Lake area, and so that they could then incorporate and build ski lifts up there. I went to several meetings of their meetings. They didn't know I was going. But we went, and I made some copies of maps and so on, which I've given you copies of, where they planned the roadways and how it would virtually impact heavily the wilderness area and take away the area that we loved so much as an area that we can go with our families. Family area was one thing that we were considering. Many of our members had families, and we'd go camping with them. John Palladino was an attorney in Riverside, and he had his family. One time John and a representative of the House of Representatives, Don Bauer, and I, the 4 of us, hiked up to Dry Lake, camped out all night. That congressman was sold on the San Gorgonio Wilderness. I believe his name was Martin, I believe, at the time. And he went back in Congress, and he was pitching for us. And that one trip had a wonderful results.
What are your favorite spots in the wilderness? Some of your favorite places?
Everywhere. No, I mean, this area here, I've been up to Barton Flats many times. I was a scout leader, an explorer post leader. We worked with a lot of trails up here. Before the San Gorgonio Wilderness area became involved in trails, but we were participating in the Pacific Crest Trail Association, and a lot of trail work we did up here. I used my scouts on it, and they helped. The amphitheater that we have down here, my scouts built initially, and so we were sold on educating the public as to the needs of wilderness. And we had guest speakers all the time come up in the summertime and, like Jerome does right now, and educate the public is why we need the public's attention to keeping this as wilderness, not commercial.
If you had to give one reason that we need the wilderness,
One reason.
what do you think is the most important thing for kids coming up, for young people? What's the most important part of the wilderness?
I'm all for youth education, and I think it's very important that we educate the kids when they're young in the family, and they follow through with their families in realizing the need to keep the wilderness. We have enough commercial development in Los Angeles and all around that they can get their commercial funds there, but there are mountains that we have to protect, and that the reason our defenders became so active with Joe Momeyer and others is because of our belief in keeping the primitive areas primitive. At that time it was a primitive area, and it later became a wilderness area.
Thank you very much.
Is that all?
That's all.
We got involved in 1961, but then become an active fight up through 1964, when we even had some of our members go back to Congress, to Washington, D.C., to try to emphasize the need. And we got the support of Ron Pettis, who was I can go on and on.
The fight's still going on.
The fight was going on. The fight started really in 1962, when the San Gorgonio ski lifts became a corporation, and that's when we started a fight. And we published 10 different publications that we sent to our people, and we got letters to Congress, to Senate, to the state, and to the Forest Service. And we got the support of the Forest Service. We got the support of the House of Representatives.
But even after the Wilderness Act was passed, there were still efforts to remove this wilderness from the act.
After the Wilderness Act was passed, yes, there still was activity.
But you need to look at me,
Okay,
because
all right.
this isn't going to work.
Okay.
I'll ask him.
After the Wilderness Act was passed, there still were efforts by several groups in LA, and one group wanted to buy a right-of-way going up to the base of San Gorgonio up to Dry Lake.
So this is after 1964?
It was 1967 that this occurred, yes. And so we kept fighting this clear up till the 1972 and 74. There still were efforts put forth. And we still had people wanting to put up money to buy the rights to put chairlifts on San Gorgonio. But the strength of the conservation movement made them realize that they're going to have an endless battle, and they gave it up. And 74 was the last real effort put forth.
So now there's no one trying to develop here now?
I'm not saying they're not trying to develop, but they're not trying to develop commercially. No. I have to add this. Tommy Tyndall, who built Snow Summit in Big Bear, I worked for summertime and on weekends. He was a ski developer, but he wasn't for developing San Gorgonio in the manner in which they wanted it. He developed Snow Summit in a reasonable manner, conservative. But there were so many big money people that were on that committee that they wanted to spend the money, build the roads, and build restaurants up there and so on. This was followed in the latter part of the 70s by a battle that I had with the Mineral King area, where Disneyland wanted to create commercial activities up there and ski lift in Mineral King. I even made a video on that one, and that was the end result that Disney also realized that wilderness is something that we need to conserve, and they backed off completely. And that was the second go around.
So you even won against Disney.
What?
You even won against Disney.
Yes, we did. Disney was more reasonable than some big commercial developers in Los Angeles who had money. Disney had money, but Disney had a committee that would review these, not just individual bank owners.
Could we have him finish the sentence? I love the wilderness because.
Okay. We need you to start your sentence. I love the wilderness because. So
There are
you,
many reasons.
fine.
And then
Just say I love the wilderness because.
Okay?
yeah, you can continue talking to her.
I love the wilderness because it's something that we don't have available unless we preserve it. And we maintain it in such a way that our children and our grandchildren have the right to enjoy it as I have enjoyed it, as my family has enjoyed it, and as we hope it will remain in a manner that can be used for recreation, but yet can be used for understanding of the needs of the area to be there for generations to come.
Thank you.
Okay?
Yep.
That's perfect.